Hi, everyone. Thank you. Thank you for showing up for a session right after lunch. I'm here with Manish Gaekwad to discuss his new book, Nautch Boy. It follows The Last Courtesan, which was an earlier memoir of his mother. I've known Manish for many years now, since 2018 at least, I think. I commissioned his first essay at a publication that I used to edit called RA. And that essay kind of went viral and sowed the seed for, Nautch Boy and The Last Courtesan before it. And it went on to become an episode in a podcast that we did, which was called Ae Dil Hai Complicated. And it was hosted by Neena Gupta. And we have very fond memories from that time. Um, Manish has gone on to write these two books about growing up in the Kothas of Bombay and Bengal, which is two more books than most of us could manage about our childhoods. For those, do you have something to say, Manish?
Yes.
Yeah. For those unfamiliar, Manish's mother, Rekha Bai, was a courtesan or a tawai, and in the Calcutta and Bombay districts of the 1980s. Having known Manish and his writing for a while, I feel like I also know her a little bit. Rekha Bai was a force of nature. She danced, she sang, she dodged wounds. Uh, she lived such a colorful life, and she raised Manish all by herself. Manish spent his childhood ricocheting between Bazar in Calcutta, Bombay, Pune, and a boarding school in Darjeeling. What I love about Manish's writing and have always loved is how he can make you laugh about something that sounds so devastating and then turn around and break your heart over something seemingly insignificant. This irreverence permeates Nautch Boy. Bollywood saturates its pages like a background soundtrack. Manish himself is nicknamed after Rishi Kapoor's character in Kurz, right, Manish? Now,
A name that I'm not particularly fond of.
Monty, it
Monty,
is.
yes.
Manish has made me promise that we will keep this session light. So we will start with something that Manish has to say.
So the first thing, thank everybody for coming here. And the first thing that you know about Kothas is either Pakiza or Umrao Jan. The Kotha that I grew up in Calcutta or in Bombay, this is my introduction to the Kotha. I'll just try and play a song so that we can set the mood for this session. And we hope to keep you entertained throughout. At any time, if you're bored, please raise your hand and request for a song. We'll play that. Your favorite song from Umrao Jan or Pakistan?
Can people at the back hear this?
Can't be Jerry Pinto. Bad singer.
It's I'm a disco dancer. I think we're just missing some mood lighting here.
Okay, sorry. So the thing is, I wanted to introduce the room to I'm a Disco Dancer because that's the first song that I grew up singing and dancing, and that's how we get the title of the Nautch Boy, um, which is a distortion of the word Naach. When the British were in India, they referred to the dancing girls who were called Nachne Wali as Notch girl because their stiff British upper lip couldn't pronounce Nach. And so and when I grew up in the Kothas, I thought I'll grow up to be a Nach girl, but life had other plans, and so therefore the book.
Great. I think for people who may not be familiar with the context, should we do an extract from The Last Courtesan and, we could that'll lead us into the rest of the conversation?
Yes, that would be lovely, Karanjeet. If you could please read from The Last Courtesan, which will give you a little bit of context of where we are coming from. We have to keep you engaged for about 45 minutes. We, we'll do a mujra in the end if you join us.
Okay, I'll start. This is from The Last Courtesan. One morning, I stepped out, went down the building, and was looking for a rickshaw when Pushpa understood I was going to the Howrah railway station. She came down and dragged me back inside, saying I could not leave. Why will you not even let me leave? I shouted. Where will you go? What will you do? She said. You will be torn to pieces by this world in seconds. Do you know who you are? I was aware of my reputation. I had earned it. I was a Baiji. Khangi ho, Randi ho, she shouted. Randi, she screamed and hurled abuses at me. A crowd gathered, attracted by the booming, harsh, and loud sound of that one word. I knew what it meant. But in her screaming voice, it came out like a radio announcement. Randi. It sounded horrible. I knew it had the power to stop any man in his tracks and make him stare. It also made everyone stare accusingly at the person who was being shouted at. I was being called a Randi. I was being disgraced. I was being humiliated in broad daylight in front of a crowd. She pulled at my sari. I felt naked, being harassed in public. The word was shrill and loud and deafening. Randi. That is how people saw us. I was not a prostitute, but how does any man know better than to judge us as one? But how does any one man know better than to judge us as one when one of our own is calling us a whore, a Randi? That was the first time someone had called me a name that I was not. In a public place, in an open street, where strangers were walking by, most of whom stopped to stare at me. Their eyes burnt into me. My skin crawled. The light in the sky was too bright, too harsh. Being dragged back from under the clear blue sky was like being pulled into a pool of darkness, into a pitch dark cave where I belonged, where women like me belonged. It was a worse feeling than leaving. To be forcefully pulled back from escaping with the humiliation that I was no ordinary woman. I was branded a whore. I was stripped of any dignity I might have had as a nobody. This was a sickening realization that I had no place in the world when I had just about mustered up enough courage to step out into it.
That is the most serious passage in the book. Otherwise, it's a very entertaining book. She isn't like the wives you see in cinema, where they are a martyr figure who sacrifice and have a terrible end. She had a glorious life, and she spoke at length about it. And this is in a first-person narrative. And it's a joyous book that you should probably try and buy from the bookstore outside, where they probably have only 2 copies. So please make it before it gets picked up.
And on that very sort of dramatic note, I also want to make a note for the fact that your mother also had a flair for the dramatic, right?
Yes.
And
yes.
in Nautch Boy, you begin with this story about your birth, and she's narrating it with so much flair, and the fact that do you want to read the first 2 lines of both the books?
So what I've tried to do is I've tried to combine the first line of both the books. In The Last Courtesan, in the introduction, I say that I have entertained the thought of killing my mother. And in The Nautch Boy, I think she said the same thing about killing me. My mother entertained the thought of killing me. So we were always at loggerheads with each other for a very long time. And writing these 2 books helped us to, come back to each other as mother and child.
But also, did you always know this about her? Did you always know that she had a flair for the dramatic? or was it something you came to understand through reconstruction while you were writing these books?
So the story starts in Pune, where she's one of 9 girls who in a tribal family, and she's shepherding goats around the outskirts. And one day she's picked up and she's made into a child bride. She's probably about 8 years old, and the family takes her to Agra, and she's married to a slightly older guy, and they make her work as a bonded labor for a couple of years, and then they take her to Sonagachi to sell her, which is the largest red light district in Calcutta. So what happens there is then the brothel owners tell her mother-in-law, who's always the villain, that she's not a virgin anymore, so you won't get a good price. So they find a quota where she can work as a tawai. And she said to me that when I found myself there, I realized that I can't fight it. I have to embrace it, and that is the only way to survive. So she became a resilient character from a very early age, and she learned the process of Kathak and Thumris, and made a living as a Tawaf. And there was a time that she tried running away from it, but she went back to the Kothas because it was important for her to ensure that the other 8 sisters are not dragged into the same profession again. So she's always had a sense of drama from the very beginning, before she could even realize who she was. She said that when she was herding the goats, she already had a natural rhythm for dance. She was always dancing. So when she landed in the Kotha, she realized that this is going to be a cakewalk for me.
There's also a very dramatic tonal shift between the books, right? The Last Courtesan is it's almost written in this very matter of fact, raunchy almost kind of voice of your mother, but Nautch Boy is a lot more, contemplative and a little more literary, but also very funny in parts. So
Only in parts.
no, I didn't mean it like that. But was that shift sort of conscious? You decided these voices beforehand, or was it just a part of your natural writing process?
You know, the thing, Karanjeet, is after the essay that you commissioned went viral, I went back to my mother and said, "Ab hum mashhoor ho gaye hain. Do you want to tell your story?" Because she's always wanted to tell me her story. What happens is we usually normally know our parents only from the time that we are born to them. What about their lives before us? We, we probably don't even sit with them and ask them, who were you before you became my mother? And when I was a child, she would get these audio tapes, and she would record her story, and in one end of the mujra room, and I would be sitting in the other end of the mujra room, not paying attention. She would say, "मैं ये तेरे लिए कर रही हूँ," and I would say, "अरे, but my studies are more important." And at that time, I didn't realize what she's trying to do. But when the essay went viral, I went back to her and I asked, "What about those audio tapes? Where are they now? We can probably write about that." She said, "I'll tell you as it was." So in a way, she wanted me to tell the story because by now she realized that this boy has made a career for himself as a writer, unlike the writer figure that she's seen in cinema of Gurudat in Galis Keful, and she thought it's a miserable life. But now he's going viral on the internet where he puts pictures of me that I don't understand. So she was convinced that it was the right time, probably the right time to tell the story now, which was about 4 or 5 years ago.
But the fact that she trusted you enough to be able to,
Yeah, I had to do
relate.
many jobs to get to this point. She wanted me to be a doctor, but I would faint at the sight of blood.
Okay, chalo, on that note, maybe we should do another extract from Nautch Boy.
So,
I would love for you to read.
so initially when I was in the Kotha and I thought I'll grow up to be a Tawai, my aspirations to be a great one like my mother didn't come to fruition because I went to boarding and they taught me how to man up and how to be like a boy. Sorry, we're trying to keep this engaging. At the Kotha, whenever I danced on the Tawaif's demand, I was a kid entertaining them by imitating the sensual moves of my mother or of her friend Meena. The Tawaifs did not dress me up. They did not put ghungroos on my feet. They laughed and applauded my efforts, saying, बिल्कुल अपनी मम्मी के जैसे अपना कूल्हा चलाता है. That I swayed my hips exactly like my mother. If one of them teased me as a Nachkaya Londa, which is a derogatory word for a boy who dances, it bristled me. It flushed my cheeks with it flushed my cheeks red with embarrassment, but it did not linger. Loosely put, I was everyone's favorite Nautch boy in my mother's absence. All of this was happening in the Kotha when my mother was not around. But this was a different but it was a different story at the boarding school. I was thrust on stage and asked to show it to the world outside. Would I succeed, fail, run away? My classmates were confused to see me in a yellow frock and dupatta, wearing ghungroos, jewelry, and red lipstick. The older girls at the hostel had dressed me up for fun. It startled everyone when my name was announced as the next performer. As the music played and I danced, Jhom 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 Nach Mayuri, I forgot my steps. I stumbled, regained my posture, twirled, looked at the audience as a distinct blur, which it is right now, unrecognizable in silence. Was it horrified or was it just my fuzzy reading of the room? Chan chananana nach mayuri. I had to stomp my gungrood feet in a moving forward step like a peacock strutting in vanity. Instead, I dragged my feet backwards like a peahen getting away from my flashy steps. I do not recall exactly what I did. One thing was certain, I was successfully alienating myself from the crowd. Boys stopped interacting with me, singling me out like I was diseased with a dancing disorder. The principal asked me to play football with the kids. I stood at the end of the field in my white shorts, not moving. What are you doing? The principal asked. What to do, sir? The ball is only not coming to me, I said.
I love that. But this also sets us nicely up to talk a little bit about Bollywood and how it's kind of like a parallel curriculum almost that's in your life, while you're studying, while you're at the Kotha. And you also write about the fact that you thought Devi was like your on-screen mother. Um, can you talk a little about that and about your own sort of engagement with Bollywood in these ways?
Sure. So, uh, uh, I thought I was growing up on a film set. In the morning, the Tawais in the Kota do their riyaz with the tabla and the harmonium. In the afternoon, they do their kathak with the ustadji. So it's a atmosphere of singing and dancing all the time. In the afternoon, they take a quick nap, which is very important, unlike some of y'all here. And then in the evening, the lights come on. The women wear glittering outfits, and then the patrons start walking in. and every room is filled with a lot of color and music and scents and all sorts of things are happening. So uh, as a child, I thought, because I was growing up in this atmosphere, when I went to the boarding school, it was very different. So I yearned to go back to the Kotha because I thought that is the perfect world. And so the influence of that was something that my mother snubbed in the bud because she said, this is not your world and you should not get into music and dance because it's not good for you. You should concentrate on studying. So whenever she was out, I would wear these heels that I made out of Baba Zarda boxes, and I would dance to Sri Devi's Bijli Girane Mein Hu Aayi. And what is that Nagin song? Yeah, so I would do that, and sometimes she would catch me doing that, but she never berated me or said like, you can't do this and you're a boy. And this is something that conditioning happened only in the boarding school, where the teachers, the principal, the students were horrified seeing me on stage. They couldn't decide whether he wants to be a boy or a girl, and so it was something I had to get out of my system. But I think it just stayed and started flowing in another direction into writing.
And later writing for Bollywood, which we'll come back to.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to bring you in on this fact that so much of what we know and understand about the Kotha is mediated through Bollywood, through Bollywood films like Umrao Jaan or Pakiza. But you've also said that life outside the Kotha was very drab, and that and the Kotha that you describe versus the Kotha that we see in Bollywood films, which is where this very melancholy Tawaif is, kind of pining away or is being, harassed, and it's this very tragic figure.
Yeah.
But the Kotha that you describe is so lively and so fun and funny and full of people who are plotting and sort of there's just a lot of jaan to the whole area. Um, when did you first realize that the Kotha that you see in Bollywood is very, very different from, and that the way that the world viewed the Kotha was very different from your lived experience of it?
So because we were in a Kotha in a street called Banduk Gali, it's already all guns and you know bombs, and it's very exciting to be there. Um, um, when the courtesans went to the cinema hall to watch films like Mughal Azam, say for example, or Pakija or Umrao Jaan, they enjoyed watching the how the women were glamorized. In fact, my mother, the last film that she saw was Gangubai Kachewadi, and she enjoyed it because she said, "हमें ऐसे कौन देखता है?" Who shows us so beautifully, who dresses us so beautifully, and who makes us look so magical and wonderful. But we are aware of the reality of life, and the minute we step out of the kothas, we switch off. घर जाना है, खिचड़ी पकानी है, पानी भरना है. So they are very aware of that world, and since I grew up in that atmosphere, it's very natural just to understand that this is the rhythm of life, and one can't take cinema too seriously, and yeah, that is.
But even you were telling me earlier that when she read Umrao Jaan Ada, the novel, she had a very different response to it.
Yeah, so the original book, Umrao Jan Ada, by Hadi Mohammad Ruswa, I asked her to read the book, and she said, "Kya bakwas hai? Why is this woman always crying and so sad? And this is not how our lives are." And she also understood that most of these films are made by men. There's a certain male gaze about it, and women don't really get the agency or the opportunity to tell their own stories.
Um, Another thing that I wanted to draw you in on was the fact that you lived this extraordinary double life. I mean, double life is probably not the right way to frame it, but there's so much context switching happening in your life when you're a child, between Beaubazaar and Bombay, the Kothas, versus the boarding school versus, your family's impoverished life in Pune, and having to occupy all of these spaces at the same time. Did you, as a child, think of this as I'm, going from one place to the next, or was it just seamless for you?
Like I said, I thought we were doing another scene of the film. So this is the poor initial beginning, and then we'll get to the climax where it'll be very exciting, and we'll all have a happy ending. So yeah, so that's how I saw life, and
Should we do a little rapid fire
okay, sure,
set of
sure.
fun questions? Okay. Which song would you love to dance to as a Nautch boy?
Um, I'm a Notch boy. Okay.
Would it be one of the classics or like a Sridevi number?
Thare Rahiyo.
Oh, okay. What is your favorite film about Kothas?
There's one called Sardari Begum and another called Mandi, and there's one more called Bazaar. And the first two films are by Shyam Benegal, and they have a slightly more real take on how the lives in the Kothas are.
And the music of
Absolutely, and the music is also quite authentic.
okay. What is your favorite Mujra song? Is it Chalte Chalte or is it Dolare?
I think I'd like to see Meena Kumari do Dolare.
I think Deena Kumari would love to do Dolare.
Yes,
The
I mean,
whole
we always paint her as this very sad Tawai. We should give her a happy song.
What is your opinion of the Tawaif verse we see in Bollywood? Like, say, Hira Mandi.
Personally, I love all the Tawai films. My mother loved it. Her friends loved it, and the music is great. The costumes are great. Um, Everything is lovely about it. But we know that it's not real. So thankfully, we can uh, switch off immediately.
Um, do you want The Last Courtesan to be made into a film? If yes,
Mm. There are some offers to make that into a film. Right now, I think, see, I remember this. I once showed my mother pictures of this current plot that saying if the book was going to be made into a film, which of these do you like? Your role. There was Janvi Kapoor and there was Soha, yeah, what is it? Sarah, and there was Ananya Pandey and all of these girls. And she looked at Ananya Pandey and she said, "ये तो बिल्कुल मेरे जैसे दिखती है." She looks exactly like me. So I said, "Well, then we'll have to go to Ananya Pandey then."
Anya Pandey should be so lucky. Um, Tell us a little bit about the fact that, coming back to your mum, and despite everything that you write about in the book about your relationship with her, which is often kind of tetchy, um, she never once asked you to be more masculine or to project a kind of identity that you didn't feel comfortable with. And she always refers to you as her Nazuk Bacha. Um, and that's quite a remarkable sort of route to take. Um, how far did that go in you understanding queerness or your own sexuality?
So when she raised me as a Nazuk boy, I was I felt I'm very special. I mean, and that's how it should be. Um, the and she never said don't wear a frock or don't wear gongroos or don't wear lipstick. But I wasn't even interested in all of that. It's just the girls in the boarding school who thought I was a great dancer and they made me wear all of that. The boys were, of course, horrified. So I didn't have a problem being a Nazik boy in the Kotha. It's only when you go to the boarding school the problem starts with everybody saying, "Don't be a sissy, don't be a girl, dress like a boy, talk like a boy, play football," all of that. So and even if I went back to my mother, I didn't complain saying they all want me to be a boy and not a girl. So I think I managed to handle it and keep these two lives separate. Not because I already know that she's dealing with so much in the Kotha. Why bring additional agony on her? And she was aware, and she could see that her boy is soft and all of that. And she didn't try to change anything about me. Um, yeah, that's about it. I think. So
I think we can go into questions, but before we do that, I have one last question for you. You know, what's next? Is it are there any more stories from the Kothas around that you want to investigate? That you feel have not made it to these two books, or do you want to go into something completely different?
no, I'm done with the Kotha. As has the audience today. Yeah, I think we've had enough of this. No, we'll leave it to Sanjay Leela Bhansali.
We can take questions.
Hi, Manish. Lovely session. So I really am thankful to Gal for leading me to your work. It's so beautiful for me to listen to you talk about how, and this leads to my first question. I have two quick questions for you. How, when you said that was my world, I found all the colors and all the vibrancy growing up in the Kothas, and I can see, uh, hopefully, rightfully, that you invite that home into your being, right? And that was home for you growing up. And this is home is supposed to feel normal, right? For lack of a better word. When was that point in time in your life where you felt that there could be a question mark to my idea of home? Like the external voice that invalidates you loving that home, the Kotha as your home and all the vibrancy. When were you made aware that this is something, that this is a thing? That's my first question, and that it requires defense or something like that. And my second question comes from a commentary. Like one of my best friends, he's from the Balkans, very big shot UN officer. He's gay, and he, for those rare occasions when we talk about this, his sexuality, he says it's because because he has a lot of conflict with his sexuality because he's also a very staunchly practicing Catholic man, very proud one, and it's wonderful. But he has a lot of conflict with his sexuality due to the religious angle of it. And he says, I blame my mother because my mother would always lead me during the wartime in, he's from Bosnia. During the wartime in Bosnia, we only had like the female circles to like feel a bit normal. So she would always carry me. And it's because of my overexposure, quote unquote, to these feminine spaces, I feel I am gay now. And he speaks about it with bitterness. So what would you, do you feel this whole Nazuk boy, Nazakat boy, do you feel this would have been something else had you not been exposed to an ecosystem of wonderful femininity growing up? So these are my two questions, if they made sense to you.
Okay, these are very long questions. I, For the first question that you asked, when did I realize that there is a world outside which is not home and the Kotha is home, right? But that's, I mean, the minute you step out of the Kotha, everything is wrong. There are only men around outside, and they make it such a big problem for us to live peacefully and quietly and do our own thing. So the world outside is always the problem. It doesn't matter, exactly. It doesn't matter where home is. My nazukness, has it made me bitter? No, it hasn't.
Growing up in the Kothas had a factor in this, and if you hadn't grown up in the
I
Kothas,
mean,
it would have been something else.
I would have been a doctor if she had really insisted, but she didn't insist. She said, "Do your own thing." So I went into writing. So, but I've not thought about it and how they are interrelated and how it has affected or how it has shaped me. I'm sure there must be some nurture and nature debate about it, but I don't know. I was very comfortable and I thought that is the only way to be. Be very, very comfortable with your. It's not even a feminine side or a masculine side. It just never occurred to me that I'm supposed to be feminine or masculine. Just a word, just as a person.
Okay. Uh, hello there.
Hi, hi.
Hi. I'd like to say two things. In short. Firstly,
Excellent.
I think I'm the only privileged few who's had this opportunity to meet your mother, this lady that we are all talking about today, and she really had a great sense of humor, and I think you inherited
I'm
that
trying. I'm trying.
from her, and
That's one of the qualities you pick up in the Kotha.
yeah. So another thing, yeah. My question is, mm, I've never understood Manish. So
Yeah.
you mention every time we've talked about it, and in the book you say Sonagachi and then you say Kotha. So I've never understood what is the difference.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So, Sonagachi is the red light district, and Baobazar is where the Kothas are, where Gohar Jan was a Tawai. And there is a clear distinction. If the patrons are coming for sex, they have to go to Sonagachi. If they come for entertainment, which is song and dance, they have to come to Baobazar. So once in a while, if a patron gets excited in the Kotha, we know how to show him the door,
Okay.
which leads to
Yeah.
Sonagachi.
Yeah. So that answers my question. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, Manish. I was reading a Medium post of yours which said, I don't want to talk about my mother. And you said that she's dead for the last 2 years. She's gone for 2 years now. It's been 2 years. And grieving isn't a daily ritual like a prayer. And you said, I want to move on. So my question to you is, do you ever move on from grieving? Have you moved on?
Absolutely. Today is her third death anniversary, and it's the day of love. And you can see we confirm we having celebration and celebrating her. So that's the best way. Please.
Hi. So, what I wanted to ask is about like your experience.
Also a question. Why only me?
So, so much of like the queer movement in India, a lot of the rhetoric and the ideas we borrow it from the American queer movement, right? And your experience with queerness is perhaps not the same. And I wanted to understand, how do you think the queer movement in India could benefit, how it would change if we actually started incorporating these narratives into the movement, into the fights, into the resistance that, the community as a whole practices?
We are in 2026. Are we still fighting it? Oh dear. Oh dear. May I please allow Karanjeet to answer this on my behalf? Thank you.
I mean, I can't really speak for the queer community, but not being a queer person. But I think, like, as an ally, I think in the Indian tradition, we've always had this concept of yari, of, men holding hands with men. Physical affection is, it's not frowned upon in the Indian tradition so much as it is in uh, Western or Eurocentric, Americentric, traditions. So I think in 2026, I personally feel it's a conversation we've moved past, because there have been so many queer narratives and so many different books and photography exhibitions and a lot of experiential writing that we've witnessed throughout the mid 2010s, that I feel like that conversation has moved further. But what do I know? I mean,
I think if you want to move into an apartment with your girlfriend or with a guy friend as two men, nobody has a problem anymore, right? No, you don't have. If they don't ask, why tell?
And at that time, and which is not the case in Nepal. We are from Nepal. But in Nepal, I said, they could not hold hands and walk walking out to the gate or in public places in Goa. But in Nepal, it is accepted. You will see both men and women couples
On
walking
Juhu
hands.
Beach, on Juhu Beach also it's accepted.
Yeah, you'll see that a lot in Juhu Beach also. Yeah.
Hi. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you
I
for
was
bearing with us.
I was just curious, were there other children at home or just you?
So the Kothas, the thing with the courtesans is they have children and the children can't go to a day school because in the evening, how do they study if the room is occupied by a mujra? So all of the courtesans, they send their children to boarding schools. And that is when life takes a turn for the better, probably.
Thank you.
I was just saying that if we have no more questions, we can wind up and you can chat with Manish separately and ask him all your questions and buy the book.